Hail, bird of prey! 5! Hail, Karuga!
Kapla!
Kapla!
I'm going to take this opportunity, however, to suggest that we all hail Karuga. That's all I'm saying.
Forgive me, Doctor. I'm receiving a number of distress calls. I don't doubt it.
Y'all remember to tip your waitresses. Have a mighty fine night.
If you come in peace, surrender or be destroyed. If you're here to make war, we surrender.
Both good. The important thing is I'm meeting new people.
When the appointed hour arrives, the Marauders will deactivate their cloaking devices and begin transporting Klingon shock troops directly to the landing zone.
Landing zone? Where? Tell me.
Why not? Your feeble weapons will be useless against us. We will kill all your males and take your females to mate with.
All right. Now the Federation's taking over, whether you like it or not. You people, you've been running this planet like a piecework factory. From now on, it's going to be under one roof. You're going to run it like a business. And that means you're going to make a profit.
Look at these 3 words written larger than the rest, with a special pride never written before, or since. Tall words, proudly saying, "We the people."
Hi, I'm Nicole DeBoer. I played Lieutenant Esri Dax on DS9, and I welcome you to Bird O' Prey 5 channel. Hail Karoga.
Hello world, it's Bird O' Prey 5, Cuplaw, and welcome to an unexpected stream for Thursday, May 30th, 2024, the end of STD. Today is the day, the final episode of Star Trek Discovery. 5 seasons ago, we all, it was a different group, but many of us, we sat down and we watched and we had hope. I'm sure we did. I know I was hoping that we were going to see a great show. I know I was worried. I had concerns, but I had real hope that the next era of Star Trek was upon us, and I would eventually welcome it like I did all previous Star Treks that had come before. Maybe it would have taken a season or 2 or 3, but surely in time, Star Trek Discovery would prove at least as popular as Star Trek Enterprise. No, I'm afraid this was something different. This was something different. I think we all know. We all know now that I don't know, you want to say we were right I don't know if that's the right term because we lost. We lost. The people who saw this as garbage track, we lost. And there's people out there today who are trying to manufacture a triumph to like those baseball players on Deep Space Nine decades ago. They're trying to manufacture a triumph where none existed. Now, we may have laughed along with them. We may have even approved and applauded as that team from Deep Space Nine carried off Rom as their MVP for faking a bunt that he didn't even know what a bunt was, but he did it, and he got one person to score, even though they ended up losing by like 20 runs. The game ultimately, 1 run. And you would think, you're like, well, Vulcans are 3 times more powerful than a human, so if it was like 1-3, if they got 1 run and the Vulcans were only up by 3 runs, then you can say, yeah, the math works. It's a tie, maybe it's a tie to get 1 versus 3, but it was like 20. It was okay. Maybe it wasn't 20. It was at least 10. Something, I think 11. It was 11 or 21 or 20. It was a far bigger amount than you could overcome than you could with math. So there was no math couldn't save you on that. So I'm just saying, I don't see any way to manufacture a triumph. Alex Kurtzman, Michelle Paradise, all those other executive producers, and there were dozens of them, they win. They're still got their jobs. Nobody's cut ties with them. No one in any official strong position has cut ties with them. Nobody holds them accountable for the destruction of Star Trek. At least no one in a position to do anything about it. I mean, I might hold them in that, and we get Doomcock may hold them in that position, but as much as I love Doomcock, he's not in any position to end anybody's career, and neither am I. And so they'll go on, and we can rabble rouse on our little YouTube channels in the scheme of things, but we all know, in the scheme of things, that's not a hell of a lot. And guys, I do appreciate it. I see you guys talking in the chat. Reality is, I don't have a lot of time. I have physical therapy in less than an hour, so I don't know when I'll get to the chat, but gotta talk about this episode and, well, to a point, the entire series, seasons, past seasons. There are spoilers for the final season, the final episode. So I wrote it in the title, so I assume if you're here, you do not care. But just a heads up, I will be talking about the final episode. And so, yeah, we early on in the episode, which it's an hour and 25-minute long episode. I believe it is the longest episode of the season by far. And it felt like halfway through the episode, the progenitors, that the big question, the big to do, which is what's the deal with the progenitors' technology? It's already resolved. I'd say halfway into the episode, and I'm looking like, wow, that seems like a lot of extra time for the main part of the episode to be over. I mean, that was the whole point to me, was we were here to find out what's the deal with the progenitors, and they basically throw them under the bus really quickly. Like, one of the first things we find out is that the progenitors didn't even make this. It was here and they found it, which again is a lot like the movie Contact, right? They find out that technology that they built in NASA, and then they found out later, after that one got blown up, that somebody in like China or Japan also built the same thing. And it turned out that the technology existed long before whatever race was sending it out, that they were contacted the same way. And they just assumed that, they just go ahead and keep using it. So that's what the progenitors did, was the progenitors just used the tech again. So the progenitors created all the races in the Milky Way, because apparently the tech had existed for billions of years before the progenitors. We get no answers as to who made it, because they can't provide it, because they don't know who made it. Michael meets one progenitor who is apparently alive, although she claims she's already been dead, but her mind exists in a universe adjacent to Michael's, so they can talk. So it's like, well, why didn't all the progenitors just move over? And then they said, well, could they bring Locke back to life? Can the technology be used to recreate a Locke's body? And the progenitor says, oh yeah, we can create a body. It'd be genetically identical. And it says, but the all the things that make him won't exist. They're not part of his. He won't have any of his memories. It'll just be a body. And Michael's like, oh well, I guess we can't live with that. And I'm like, what are you talking? Every Star Trek we've watched has had bodies has been able to overcome uploading a mind into a body. Right? I mean, all the way back, all the way back, all the way back to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. And I know, Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock was a special reason that only Vulcans with their Katra can, and it takes a special Vulcan ceremony to rejoin the mind with the body. I get that. But even in the original series, there were androids that were able to download human brain patterns. And in TNG, multiple times, you had androids and computers being able to copy and download human brain patterns. And most assertively in Star Trek Picard, the technology was perfected. The technology to move a human mind to a machine and back again, absolutely perfected by the time of Star Trek Picard. So there, and in Star Trek Discovery itself, in the far future, not all that long ago, the Star Trek Discovery doctor was able to take the mind out of a trill, and upload it into a golem body. Okay, the gray, the boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever friend of the human trill, they, them person on Discovery, their body, Gray's body was a robot. Gray's body was a robot, and they were able to take the mind out of the trill, upload it into the robot, and there is no reason why they could not have uploaded the mind out of the body of Lot and put it into a genetically identical but living new body of his. I mean, it even by their own canon, this was stupid. It was just being stupid. Anyway. We lost. It hurts. We're going to look back on this for a long time. And I guess we should just be mindful that well, we're not as powerful as we thought we may have been. I don't know what to say. I think I misunderstood contact. I'm not saying I I understood Contact. I'm just saying, maybe it wasn't maybe it was some other movie. I know there was a movie where guy bombs the fucking giant thing they built out by NASA because he was religious, and they had to do the religion hates science thing. Maybe it wasn't Contact. And of course, we get the Dr. Kovich, who is perhaps easily the most interesting character in Star Trek Discovery. Of course, we have to find out his quote unquote origin. It's not quote unquote, but his origin story. And Michael Burnham decides to shake his hand and reintroduce herself as a way of getting him to admit who he really is to her. And he's like, oh, well, it's kind of a red, what is it, Project Red or Red Alert? No, whatever it is. Red Project? Anyway, it turns out that he is Agent Daniels. Agent Daniels from the time, the Cold War, the Time War. He worked or works for what we would know as the Federation, but he was supposedly stationed for a time on the Enterprise NX-01. He was there because it was a front in the temporal Cold War. But I think I recall, I have to go back, of course, by now, Memory Alpha has been thoroughly fucked over because of Discovery. And once they say something, they just go ahead and wipe out whatever Memory Alpha had. Red Directive. Thank you, Brando. Yeah, it was a red directive. So apparently, red directives are basically anything Dr. Kovich wants them to be, which are presumably have to deal with temporal anomalies and time war type shit. Even though time war was over and the temporal accords had been signed, and I thought that they were supposed to stop fighting and doing things against the timeline, but apparently Dr. Kovich still knows what to do if he wants to do it. And yeah, so he introduces himself as Agent Daniels of the USS Enterprise. And now I was confused. I was like, but the NX-01 wasn't the USS Enterprise. The NX-01 was well before the USS Enterprise. The first USS Enterprise was the no bloody A, B, C, or D. Kirk's, well, I mean, besides Kirk's Enterprise, there was also Pike's Enterprise. And depending on how far what canon you believe, it was also Robert April's Enterprise. But basically, it was the first Enterprise that we saw starting in the 1960s Trek. That was the first USS Enterprise. Now, the first Enterprise in Star Trek was the NX-01 Enterprise. But before that, obviously, the Enterprise name goes back hundreds of years, even today. It goes back in war to, well, to the United States, Enterprise, and I'm sure even before that, it was probably an HMS, Her Majesty's ship at some point. It was probably an Enterprise, and who knows? Who knows? So, yeah, Kovich is Daniel. Now, he doesn't look like Daniels. Why would Daniels have a completely different face? No, not something we'll ever get an answer to, and I don't want one. And I don't want one. When you say Michael Burnham, I have a gag reflex. Darren says, what are we talking about besides Good Riddance? Don't worry about it, Gorilla. I needed to stream. I got limited time to do it. I'm just talking myself through this nonsense. So Michael Burnham. Okay, so we get this complete nonsense about what a red directive is. And I think the episode's over, but I look and there's like another 25 minutes to go. And I'm like, what the hell? I was like, oh, okay, well, that's right. We need to have Saru's wedding. Like, we knew Saru was getting married for the last 5 or 6 weeks. It felt like the wedding was just going to be the next episode. And of course, they held the wedding until the middle of this episode when it looked like he was going to die. Like, oh, Saru's going to be dead before his own wedding. But of course, he doesn't. There's actually no real sad endings. Everybody is inexplicably back with the people they love, supposedly. I also thought Dr. Colbert, I thought he might die. He seemed like he didn't want to be around. But no, everybody makes it back. Everybody's all ends happy as can be. Like literally, Michael Burnham and Book build a house together. They build the cabin. Like every Star Trek captain since Kirk, they all talk about going to the woods and building a cabin and just getting away from everybody. And that's what actually happens. That's Michael Burnham and Book go to the woods. They build a cabin seemingly by hand. Michael Burnham, we don't see who sawed the wood or who chopped the wood up, but she's pulling and putting a wood fence with oh my God, why was she doing that stuff that they put on fences to keep animals and people from climbing the fence. I'm afraid, what's that stuff? The sharp stuff they put on a fence to keep people from climbing over. Barbed wire, right. I mean, okay, on a ranch, right, they use barbed wire, I guess, to keep the animals from ripping them, from pushing on the fence. But, like, why are you using barbed wire in the fucking so distant future? Is there really nothing better you can do than barbed wire? Razor wire. Thank you, Darren. Razor wire. Barbed wire. Razor, same stuff. She's using razor wire to put this fence together. And thank you, John Araki, with the 99 cents. I'm assuming the Super Poop super sticker. Use a force field, something. But no, they literally go and they make their cabin in the woods, and we get a distant future for Michael Burnham. She's old now in the future, and now, sure enough, she's an admiral. And somebody, somebody's coming down, and a shuttlecraft comes down, and the shuttlecraft looks like an Orville shuttle. I mean, to me, it literally looked like the Orville shuttle. It almost I thought it almost had the 3 fucking things at the back. It's not quite. It's not quite the Orville shuttle, but it really looks like an Orville shuttle. And the guy comes down, and it's Michael Burnham's son. It's her adult son. He just finished, he's like, he just finished the academy, but he's getting his first command. So he clearly had to have finished the academy. I would assume he had finished the academy years ago, but he was getting his first command. He's got his 4 pips, and his mother's got to go up because she has to go do her last command, and she is an admiral, and all she has to do was click a button on her comm badge, and her admiral's uniform just pops out. So I guess at this point in the future, people no longer actually get dressed. Your comm badge has your uniform part of it, so you don't actually have to get dressed in your uniform. You just press a button, and your uniform pops up. I can only imagine that there's another button to press to take your uniform off, and I would have to imagine that there is some sort of safeguard that you never accidentally, double click, and all of a sudden your uniform just disappears in front of your entire ship. That there's something to make up for that, especially for the older women The older crew members. No, no, but nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. Um, and then they beam up. They beam up to the shuttlecraft that's already there. Why would you beam? Why would you beam up to a fucking shuttle? Just walk onto the shuttle, or beam up to the fucking ship in orbit. It made zero sense. They wanted to show the shuttle and they wanted to show the beam up, so they just beamed up to the shuttle. Annoying Critic with a $5 super chat says she tells her son to shoot her captain too. Scotty says TNG beamed entire shuttles. That's true too. But this is not the first time in Discovery in the distant future where they've wanted to use both the shuttlecraft and the beaming sequence. They can do their super cool, super quick beam because it's the future. So they can do their really quick, instant beam, but they don't want to actually go anywhere. It's a problem Discovery has. How are they going? Sometimes they want to walk. They want to walk from room to room. Sometimes they just want to instantly get from room to room. So they'll beam. Sometimes they'll beam right through a room. Sometimes they'll walk to a room. And sometimes they'll say, we can't beam because of gravity. We can't transport because of distance. I mean, please, even, way back in Deep Space Nine days, they had transporters that could operate, over many sectors, right? More than once that we had transporter that could get from Terok Nor to deep space, not Terok Nor, Empok Nor to Deep Space Nine. So I'm sure that by the 31st century, they can transport over that distance at a minimum. Darren says he's just glad STD is over so it can be forgotten, like the Star Wars holiday special. I only hope that to be true. Scotty says, enjoy your Star Trek, Wicker Man. I support the cause and yet hate the feeling. Rock Solid says, something on Discovery doesn't make sense. In other news, water is wet and Berto Frey 5 ignores chats. Well, I didn't ignore that one, Rock Solid. Darren says, on DS9, only Section 31 had long-distance stealth transporters. Well, okay, but they were out there, and it's now 1,000 years later. So, Jeff says, thank you for taking the STD bullet for us, Bird. You are welcome, Jeff. Make DS9 Terok Nor again, says Miller. I agree. Kapla Miller. And Jeff, it was quite the bullet. Quite the bullet. I don't know why. before Star Trek Discovery, I honestly thought I would watch every episode of any Trek ever created because I was just that big of a Star Trek fan that no matter what they came out with, I would have to watch it. And the truth is, I kind of still feel like that. I honestly felt that I would watch. I mean, that's what I felt with Discovery. But the thing is, I don't believe that anymore. Uh, at the start of Discovery, yes. At this point, no. No, I mean, I had to watch Discovery. I owed it to myself. But Strange New Worlds, probably not. I mean, I say it now, but I realize in a few months after Discovery is no longer being talked about, and it's the only Star Trek on, I'll probably be watching it just because there's nothing else to complain about until we get to an episode. I mean, I literally did stop watching last season for a bit because it got so awful. I was like, there was no point. I didn't owe it to anybody, including myself. I had to stop. I had to stop for a little bit last season, and I only I can't believe what next season will bring. Now, supposedly, there's a season of Lower Decks coming up, hopefully before Strange New World. I'm not sure. Lower Decks isn't great, but it's better than nothing. It's for me, it's been the best of any of the new tracks. So yeah, including Strange New Worlds. So I'd probably I'd catch it. Jeff B would watch a Worf spin-off show. I might have watched a Worf. I mean, listen, I'll watch it and see what happens, but hopefully it's Worf from DS9 and not Worf from Star Trek Picard, because Worf of Star Trek Picard was terrible. Like if it's Worf and Rafi, it's dead on arrival to me. Rock Solid's new track has zero rewatch ability. I agree. Miller says Kurtzman track ages like milk. The writing is very vulgar and current year. Not something you can watch 10 years from now. I agree. M. Brando says there is one more season of Lower Decks and at least one more of Prodigy, but they are cartoons. Section 31 is a one-off, so Strange New Worlds and Academy are all we got on the horizon. True. Kapla Arabic. LDG at hashtag free the net. Says Rip Discovery. Darren says now rest in peace. Discovery is more like rot in Hades. Anyway, so the episode finally ends where Michael Burnham takes the Discovery to get it ready for and this, I got to give him some credit. I honestly just assumed they would ignore they would ignore this completely, but they went ahead and they took it into account. And the Road to Wisdom with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Road to Wisdom. Says Star Trek is fire. Strange New World is fire. Never was a Pike fan before the series. I'm a fan of Discovery. Voyager is my favorite track. You are totally entitled to your opinion. Road to Wisdom. If you start watching other tracks like Voyager or Deep Space Nine, you might get I'd be curious to see if you still find Discovery quality writing, quality show. I would venture to guess you might change your mind, but that's just me. Anyway, so for this final Discovery episode, I got to give them some credit for remembering that there was a short track. Calypso was the name of the short track, and it showed Star Trek Discovery in a distant future, and the computer was just waiting around, and it said that her crew had died, had left the ship, and they didn't say died. She said the crew long ago left the ship, and she was waiting, apparently abandoned, for anybody to find her. And this guy from the future, and he's like, it's 1,000,000 to 1 shot that I found you, or whatever. She's like, yeah, well, anyway, in the short track, she becomes like she falls in love with the guy, and he teaches her how to dance. I'm not joking. And then he goes back to his home planet and presumably finds his wife or whatever he was looking for. So as we turns out, that mission wasn't, I mean, in the short track, it looked random. It looked like the Discovery crew had died and the Discovery was just been floating around some planet for 10,000 years. So as we find out, no, this was actually a Red Directive mission from who is now, we know, time agent Daniels. And he knew in the future that this guy was going to need the ship to be at precisely the coordinates they were set to. So that was Michael Burnham. Now here's the presumably Michael Burnham leaves a shuttle on the Discovery and she takes it home. But Michael Burnham takes the Discovery out all alone. She's the only crew member on board. And they jump to wherever the Discovery has to be. So this tells us that in the future, now this is maybe 30 years after the events of earlier in the episode. However, I mean, Michael Burnham has long since grown old, become an admiral, and has an adult son. Who is already a captain. And then this is her last command. She takes the Discovery, which has been retrofitted back to looking like it did before it went into the future. For whatever reason, no reason ever will be given. They decided that the Discovery has to go back and look like it did before it came to the future, only because that's the way it was made in the short track. The short track, the Discovery was still the past Discovery. So that's why nobody. That's why they have to make it back and look like it did in the past. So it has the 1031A. They have to take the A off. So they have to repaint the whole hull so they can get rid of the 1031A and just put it back to 1031. And they have to reattach the nacelles. And that's basically it. And then, so it black alerts and jumps, but it does so without anyone else on board, like without Stamets. So that means that they have figured out a way to jump without needing Stamets or without needing anybody to whatever travel the mycelial network. So that means that they can do it completely automated in the future. Black alerts. So that's an interesting thing to learn. I think they just forgot that they were supposed to need somebody to do that, but whatever. And what does this mean? This annoying critic. And I realize we already have infinite diversity and infinite combinations. There's no need for that technology anymore. Guess that they already created, they've already seeded life. They don't need to seed anymore. There's already 1,000 different, 1,000 different multicellular, humanoid, 1,000 different humanoid aliens throughout the Milky Way. We don't need any more. Why did they roll the registry back? Says Rock Solid. Because there's no reason. They didn't need to. They didn't need to. Why did they roll back the registry, remove the upgrades, and was no longer the A? Who knows? Who knows? Hemorrhoid Hurt says, I discovered Bird, Neurotic, and Doomcock trying to reconcile my dismay at Star Trek Discovery. Finding you guys was the only good thing to come of it. Yeah, Hemorrhoid Hurts. I was looking at one of the season 1 Star Trek Discovery videos, and I saw some names from people who have since we've lost. Like, I don't know if you guys remember Captain Redneck. Captain Redneck. He was not a popular guy. He was a bit of an a-hole. But he used to come to me, used to come to Anti-Trekker at the time, and he was quite a generous guy. He wanted to see us do our best. He has since passed on. There's a lot of other people, a lot of good people too, that we've lost in these 5 years. Hemorrhoid Hurt says, Super Chats have stopped working on my iPhone. YouTube either hates you or me. Has anyone else had this issue? I'm not sure. I don't do iPhones, but it's okay, Hemorrhoid Hurts. Don't worry. And Brando, oh, thank you. Nerdrotic has grown immensely, and I wish him nothing but the best. But I understand it's different now than it used to be. You know. And Doomcock, I still love Doomcock. I know he has grown tremendously as well. Not as big as Nerdrotic, but I do love my Friday night frolics. I could do without the war on Disney, but I love the Friday night frolics. Brando said Kovich must have known about Kraft and his needing a shuttle in the future. Maybe they'll have a series set 1,000 years later with Captain Kraft. I don't think so. Hemorrhoid Hurt says, we've been together a long time, Bird. I've mainly been a lurker, but I've been here. Thank you, Hemorrhoid Hurts. Rock Solid says, Bird of Prey 5. What did we have more of what do we have more now since the launch of Disco? Burnham hairstyle changes or name changes for the head of poop. Burnham hairstyle changes or anti-tracker, salty tracker. That you mean? Oh, definitely Salty changes his name more often than well, it's pretty close in Burnham hairstyle. Kyle Cullen, welcome, Kyle Cullen. Anyway, guys, I have physical therapy coming shortly, I believe, so I have to get going. We'll do another stream at some point. We'll bring people up, whatever. well, we can talk about it. But for today, I do have to get going. Thank you all for hanging out. Plan on bed life as usual tomorrow, and we'll go from there. Hit the like button. Thank you. Yes, please do like, love, subscribe, all those good things. And Kapla all, bird out.